What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be talking about 5 extremely important things that you want to know about before you start playing the Final Shape expansion for Destiny 2. Now, why are we doing this? Well, yesterday I actually had my first live stream in years. A huge thank you to everyone who turned up for that and watched me get the worst RNG for shiny drops from the Brave Arsenal that has ever been recorded in human history. My goodness. But a big part of that stream was a ton of people asking me about the Final Shape. They were curious about its features, because a ton of people have played Destiny 2 very casually on and off, or haven't played for a very long time, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching fall into one of those categories, but are returning for the Final Shape because it is the big grand finale, the conclusion of the Light versus Darkness saga. So, in this video, I wanted to go over 5 extremely important changes coming within the Final Shape that knowing about early will definitely help your experience, especially if you are a more casual or returning player. So let's get started here with thing number 1, and that is the new Prismatic subclasses. So in the Final Shape, there's going to be a brand new subclass category, Prismatic, and these are a combination of abilities throughout the 5 existing Light and Darkness subclasses. So you can quite literally have a Stasis Grenade, a Solar Super, a Strand Melee, and then aspects from Arc and Void. Like, it is pretty crazy. Now, a lot of you guys are familiar with these abilities, right? Because you've been playing the normal subclasses for years now. However, something you absolutely want to know about is that a lot of the aspects have been altered in order to be more congruent with having multiple elements available to you at once. And a great example of that is the Stylish Executioner aspect for the Void Hunter. This has been in the game for, again, years and years and years. Probably you guys are familiar with this. If you get a Void debuff on an enemy, you go invisible. Awesome. But with Prismatic, this is actually being updated so that any debuff from any element will make you invisible. So that means you throw a dust field grenade and slow or freeze an enemy, you're gonna go invisible. How about if you jolt an enemy with arc? Well, that should count as well, right? You're gonna go invisible. And so you have to be aware of these subtle changes. Don't dismiss a certain ability or a certain aspect that you maybe didn't like before on the normal subclass, because there's a possibility it's been updated to work better within Prismatic. So definitely you want to keep that in mind. And overall, Prismatic looks to be extremely powerful coming within the Final Shape. Now, part of that and something else you absolutely need to keep in mind when playing Prismatic is Transcendence. It's kind of like a mini super. You activate it, you get special grenades that are a mix of 2 different elements. You're also going to have boosted damage, and you can pop Transcendence before popping your super to improve your super. Now, the thing is, to get Transcendence, you have to build up a light meter by getting kills with light element stuff, so Void, Solar, etc., and then a dark meter by getting kills with stasis abilities and weapons, a strand, and kinetic will build both at the same time. So just make sure when you're playing Prismatic, you actually need to think of what you're equipping, right? If all your abilities are either stasis or strand, well, then you better have some light element like Void and Solar weapons, for example, to offset that, or you'll never be able to activate Transcendence because you'll just build the dark meter and nothing else, right? Now, moving on from there, guys, one of the biggest changes that cause an uproar within the community, both extremely happy players and honestly extremely mad players, was the fact that sunsetting is being removed entirely within the Final Shape. So, right now, if I open up my vault, there's certain pieces of loot like this Ringing Nail auto rifle all the way back from the Black Armory expansion like 4 years ago that are sunset. So they have a grayed out symbol on the icon, and then they have a legacy power of 1600, which means you cannot infuse them any higher. So they're stuck at the lowest possible light level for now. When the Final Shape launches, this barrier is being removed. You can take this legacy gear and now infuse it all the way up to the new maximum power level. So if you are someone returning after years and years of being away, and you have those god rolls all the way back from Forsaken or whenever you last played, you can now use those in the file shape all the way up to the end game, all the way up to the new raid if you want, which is a huge benefit to new players and one of the biggest barriers to entry for players who haven't been playing for years. They have a vault full, they have characters full of this sunset loot that they couldn't use, and now in the file shape, they can. Moving on from there, guys, thing number 3 you absolutely want to be aware of is a smorgasbord of brand new kinds of weapons. So, in the file shape, there's definitely an emphasis on introducing new weapon archetypes. And here's what I mean by that, and here's why you want to be aware of this. So, there's actually an auto rifle archetype in the file shape that has tracking bullets that will seek out enemies automatically. So much for having to go for headshots, just hold down the trigger. And if that wasn't enough, if you point it towards your teammate, it will seek towards your teammate and heal them. It's a healing auto rifle. So again, having knowledge of these new archetypes, if you would have seen this before and went, oh, it's an auto rifle, this seems like a bad roll, I'm just going to delete it, you might want to check that intrinsic trait, check what it actually does. Now, this is just one example of many other new archetypes being introduced and expanded within the file shape. For example, there's a brand new machine gun archetype where they have 600 rounds per minute. We've never had this before, so be on the lookout for that. For pulse rifles, there's actually a new 2-round burst pulse rifle archetype for legendary pulse rifles. So if you like the Graviton Lance exotic pulse rifle, you can now kind of get the legendary version of that. Not to mention, we only have one 2-round burst hand cannon. Well, there's some more coming in the file shape. We only have one special ammo rocket sidearm in the game, the Indebted Kindness, which is extremely good. Well, I think there's multiple more coming within the file shape. So if you see sidearm, I don't like sidearms. I'm gonna, whoa, hold your horses. Check the archetype because it might be something extremely new and unique, especially if you haven't been playing for a while. And somewhat on this topic, I'm going to kind of cheat and shove one more change into here, guys. You can now, in the final shape, take a randomly rolled weapon that you got. Hey, I love that new rocket sidearm. And you can actually upgrade it to be able to have enhanced perks. So no longer are craftable weapons the only weapons that can get enhanced perks and then like adept raid weapons. You can now take any random drop and upgrade it with resources to get those enhanced perks and make your weapons even better. Now, moving on from there, guys, thing number 4 you definitely want to know about is the new Pathfinder system. So, this is something that's going to be replacing the traditional bounty system, which is crazy because we've been grabbing bounties and going out there and completing them and then handing them in since literal Destiny 1 10 years ago. Finally, Bungie has come up with something new. So, how this new Pathfinder system works is that you start on the far left and work your way right. So as you complete the nodes on the left, you unlock a pathway to a more inner node, and then you complete that node and unlock to a further right node, and you keep going through until you get that juicy reward. Now importantly, once you get that juicy reward, you can reset your Pathfinder and then do it again and do it again. And there is actually essentially infinite times you can reset this. However, the final reward will get worse and worse and worse the more times you actually reset this. On top of that, Bungie did say that the first weekly run through of these Pathfinder nodes will be the same for everyone, so they will reset weekly, but as you then start resetting them, they will start to randomize, so everyone's will be a little bit different. So there's going to be 2 places where Pathfinder is present. Number 1, it's going to be ritual activities. So Gambit, Crucible, and Vanguard Strikes will all have the same Pathfinder. So there might be a node to do strikes, there's another node for Crucible, there's another node for Gambit. Whatever one you do, will complete it, and then you go a little bit forward. Now there's a more complicated node for strikes, so etc. It goes like that. You can actually see an example of one of the nodes for Gambit right here. Now, the other place Pathfinder is going to be present is in the new Paleheart destination. There's going to be a Paleheart Pathfinder, and importantly, Bungie revealed that the first few rewards you get for completing that Pathfinder is actually going to be some exotics. So that could be very, very exciting. Now, moving on from there, guys, the 5th and final thing you want to know going into the file shape is actually going to be the presence of a new seasonal model. So if you've been playing seasons anytime in the past several years, they've kind of all been pretty similar. Obviously, the themes and the weapons and so on have changed, but their overall model has remained the same. They come out, there's an initial boost of content, you maybe have a couple of weeks where content is trickled out, there's going to be an extended storyline that continues pretty much every single week for a long time, but starting with the final shape, the season that coincides is called Echoes. And the most important thing is, as you can see right here, the new seasons are now called episodes, and they're broken up into 3 separate acts. So you have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. And each of these acts is going to introduce new story content, new quests, and importantly, weapons. So instead of getting a big dump of weapons right at the beginning, and you could frankly go in and craft almost every single weapon, before week 2 started if you were really going hard, now that's going to be a lot more spread out. And so we're going to have to wait and see how that works out. There's definitely been complaints in the past about Bungie time gating content too much. However, this could also really revitalize the middle and end of a season when you have Act 2 and Act 3 starting, and maybe Act 2 has the new exotic quest in it, so everyone's like vibing to get back on and stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this works out, but regardless, it is a big change. Don't think that when you start the final shape and you're going after those Echoes weapons that you've got them all by week 2. No. There's going to be 2 more acts that are going to introduce new ones that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. And so guys, that's going to be it for those 5 important things that you want to know going into the final shape. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus, that is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.